that the agenda will be started after 2 minutes. And to the whole delegates of Istanbul Youth Summit 2022, please prepare yourself and you may have your seat properly.
Okay guys, before we start our agenda, let me say hi! Hi! I can hear you. Hi everyone! How are you today? Great? How are you today? Okay, so honestly, I'm so grateful here because I can meet all of you in here today. So I just want to tell you guys that all of us, we must grateful because now we are in here. We must grateful because now we are in here. Why? Because this activity is like Istanbul Youth Summit is the most wonderful activities. And I just want to tell you, and inshallah, this agenda, this Istanbul Youth Summit will be memorized and memorable in your life. Inshallah. And so, again, to all delegates, please sit on your chair because we will start our second panel session.
Okay, as we see that the delegates are almost complete, so we are going to begin our agenda. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Welcome back to all the delegates Istanbul Youth Summit 2022. Give applause for us. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear my voice? Okay. Now we will start our agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, after listening to first panel session, finally, we will listen to a panel session, a second panel session from Miss Zafira Akila, Mr. Fawad Afridi, and Miss Azma Aziz. Therefore, we leave the second panel discussion to Mr. Ali Jaffer as moderator.
Mr. Ali Jaffer is a graduate of Comsat University, Islamabad, Pakistan, majoring in chemical engineering. He is a fully funded delegate of Istanbul Youth Summit, president of American Institute of Chemical Engineers, Comsat chapter, and he has several professional experiences such as a research assistant at the Ministry of Science and Technology, Pakistan, research intern at Ministry of Climate Change, Pakistan, and many more. He has some volunteering experiences in World Wildlife Fund, Pakistan, and some international work experiences at ISA Cairo and the Fund of America. Jafar. To the whole honorable speakers, Mrs. Zafira Akila, Mr. Fawad Afridi, Ms. Asma Aziz, and also the moderator, Mr. Ali Javed. We welcome them to the honor stage.
Hello everyone. I think most of you know me by now. I am Ali and I am from Pakistan. So first of all, I want to apologize for me being half formal. A formal coat and an informal jeans. So just look at the formal Ali, don't look at my jeans. So I am the moderator for today's session. Don't worry guys, I got you covered. So first of all, I have a video for you from Mr. Dinapati, and I would like to show you his video. Can you please play his video?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, shalom, swastiastu. This is Dino Jalal from Indonesia. First, I want to say hello and my utmost respect to the organizers and participants of the Istanbul Youth Summit. I was originally scheduled to be there in person, but I'm so sorry that I could not make it. I tried all my best to make it. But the Omicron cases in Indonesia has gone to the roof. Yeah, it was just about 200 people just several weeks ago, and then now it's over 50,000 people per day, right? From 50 to 100 people per day to now 50,000 per day, and it's going to keep rising. Flights from Jakarta has been moved to Bali, for example. And there's a lot of uncertainties, and a lot of people in my office and also my family, extended family, have been exposed to COVID-19. So it's not a good time for me to leave my home and to leave my country. So my heart is with you, and my spirit and energy is really with you. But just physically, we just have to do this by Zoom. The young people are usually the most capable to drive change. In my country, for example, it was the young people who proclaimed independence, and this was during World War II, right? It was a bold move, right? It was young people who demonstrated and brought down a government in 1966, and then again in 1998. They brought down the regime back then and ushered in democracy era for Indonesia. It was done by the young people, right? More so than any other people, because private sector, if you have a big company, you want to play it safe, yeah. And if you are the general public, you just want to watch TV and clap when things happen, but you don't want to go to the streets, right? But young people, they're willing to risk a lot, yeah, in order to achieve change. So for young people to be intellectually bold and ahead of their time, I think that's the secret to youth contribution. I see this in Indonesia, I see this in the Philippines, in the Middle East, in the Western world, and many places. Right? Secondly, action. The youth are more prone to action. I'm not going to go more into it, but I think you know what I mean. When I was a young person, I was a demonstrator. I protested, several times, many times, I think young people are bolder and have more courage to speak up their voice when they have to. How do you face the crisis? I think positive energy is key. I think our enemy is the culture of cynicism. Again, I see this a lot in young people, meaning, I would talk to young people and they are cynical about everything. Even if people are doing good things, they're just cynical about it. And believe me, I've never seen a cynical person who is successful, right? I've met ambassadors, ministers, presidents, prime ministers, CEOs, and even Nobel winners. I've met them, and none of them are poisoned by habit of cynicism. They always have positive energy, right? They always see the glass as half full. When they see a problem, they like it because they want to solve it, right? And they're not conflict oriented. Some people just love conflict subconsciously. They just pick a fight with everybody, right? People with positive energy, they know conflicts are everywhere, but they choose their fight very carefully, right? And they have a calm, cool energy that is transparent when you engage with them. Right? So positive energy is, some people have it naturally, some people have to train it. I have to train it, right? Because I was just a negative, cynical kid before. But then, because I was exposed to many people who have positive energy, I became a positive person. And from that on, my life changed. Even as public servant, I was able to resolve many issues because I always see solution and opportunity in every problem, right? And the last thing is what is the role of the youth for the future? I think it's very simple for me. The secret to your future is you have to be more progressive than the previous generation, right? You have to be more reformist than the previous generation, right? And this is not necessarily a given, because there are many cases whereby the youth becomes more inward-looking, more insecure than their fathers or their grandfathers, right? They become more cynical, as I said earlier. They become very, reactionary, right? They don't like change, right? And when that happens, I guarantee you, that's going to lead to doom and gloom, right? Every generation, youth must be the most progressive element in society, the most open-minded, the most reform-minded, the most adaptable to change, and the one that come up with the most progressive new ideas. They're not scared of new ideas. They're smart about new ideas. If the new ideas are silly or stupid, then let it go. But if the new ideas are great, whether that is about globalization, it's about nationalism, or it's about industry 4.0, or it's about reform, or about innovation, or anything, then they will embrace it so long as it makes sense for them, right? So be the most progressive element of your society, and be more progressive than the previous generation. Because what's progressive to my father, 40 years ago, or my grandfather 60 years ago, is not necessarily progressive today, right? Times change, the standards change, the values change, and so on. So ask yourself that question: are you progressive enough today? Right? Are you open-minded? Right? Are you do you have that intellectual openness and intellectual contribution that will make your society a better place that you want to grow up in and your kids want to live in. Right? So I wish all the best for the Istanbul Youth Summit. I'm not there physically, but my mind is with you. My spirit and prayers are with you, and I wish you all the best. And hopefully one day we can meet and have a good discussions. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, we are thankful to Mr. Dino for his great video message, and we will miss his presence, but we have 3 great speakers and I am thankful for them to joining us here. But before we start, I just want to say that wake up and stop looking at my jeans. So our first speaker is Miss Zafira Akila. She has done her bachelor's in human sciences from Osaka University with a prestigious, let's say, Japanese government scholarship, and now she is working as a research student at the graduate department of human science. She is founder of Tao Lab. Sorry for my Pakistani English accent. I am actually amazed by your work, like the platform of Islamic sex learning, and you are researching on Islamic sexuality education curriculum. I believe it is a very bold work, especially when it is considered as very sensitive topic. And in your leadership experience, you are the head of the Community Empowerment and Inclusive Society at PP Dunya.
Yes.
So there are many other great achievements, and I would like you to share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please clap. Thank you.
Okay. Delegates, committee, and my highest appreciation, of course, to other speakers and moderator as well. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. And as Ali has said, wake up and stop looking at his great pair of jeans. And before we begin, and before this becomes a monologue, I would like to make a deal with every single one of you, okay? As much as I'm grateful to the committee for giving me this chance to talk to you guys, I want this to be a dialogue. So I want this to be an interactive session where when I ask you questions, you will be answering. Can I hear everyone say deal? Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, we can begin. So, as you can see, when the pandemic first happened, and I'm sure that every one of us probably remember where you are, what you were doing, who you were with, when it was finally announced that borders are going to shut down, we can no longer do international travel, and schools, we're going to have to attend them from home, online. I remember when I first heard about the news about what happened in Wuhan. I think it was sometime around December. But I didn't realize how serious it was until sometime in February when in Japan they finally started to shut down international borders, and there were a lot of uncertainties as to what's going to happen in the next few months. I personally was one of those people who expected that it was only going to be about 6 months and then we're going to be able to continue with life like normal. That's how much faith I had in humanity, that we're going to be able to move over this pandemic really, really quickly. But I realized that that's not what's going to happen when I got an email from Osaka University that said all classes are going to go online, essentially. And I thought, okay, that's new, kind of exciting because we've never been there before. This is something that we expected was going to happen maybe in the next decade, but not so soon. And then the next thing that I realized was, I was kind of happy because I didn't have to think about commute. I didn't have to think about,
waking up in the morning to, make time to clean my bed. I didn't have to think about cycling or taking the bus. I could just wake up, turn on my computer, turn on my camera, and then participate in class. But in that moment in time, the reason why I thought this was because sorry, do I get a prompter to continue to the next slide? Thank you so much. Sorry. Okay, so this is my schedule from January 2021. If you know me, I'm a person who loves to plan, so this was what it looked like. And if you think it seems quite hectic or exhausting, I will tell you it is. And before the pandemic, when I also had to think about commute, cleaning, all of that, it was even more than that. It was even worse than this. And for a second, I just needed everything to pause, right? I needed to breathe, I needed to relax, and I was able to get that in the first few months when we finally started going online. But here's the thing. In my moment of seeking for rest, to take a breather, I didn't realize that I was in a privileged position. Because I was on my own in Japan, living in my apartment. I didn't have to share my computer with anyone. I didn't have to share my internet connection with anyone. I can make sure that I can attend classes in a nice, silent room because I live by myself. This was before I got married. So I didn't realize that it was a struggle halfway across the world, or maybe perhaps even in Japan for a lot of families. And this is the reality, right? Teachers and students are struggling with online learning. A lot of you here may be able to relate with this because maybe your parents had to work, but they also have to lend their children their phone so that they could attend classes. Maybe you as a sibling have had the experience of attending your class, but your siblings just screaming around in the background and you needed everyone to be quiet, but you couldn't have that at all. And so I didn't realize that until this, and then if we go to rural area, then there are also lack of internet access, especially in Southeast Asia, where a lot of us are from, but also even in the most developed countries like the US, where the most rural places don't have internet connections and children have to drive all the way 1 hour across town so that they could get online. So this is the reality of the pandemic. And for this, my professor, I was taking an education class when the pandemic started, and my professor wanted all of us to do a project that specifically is related to COVID. And I think all of you here maybe can relate to that as well. So I did a project where we talked about, Okay, so I did a project with my friend, and the project that we did was an exploratory study where we compared the impact of COVID to education in Indonesia and Malaysia, but we also compared in urban Indonesia, Malaysia, and in rural Indonesia, Malaysia. So there are 4 types of school basically that we looked at, and we wanted to see how much economic inequalities also influence the digital divide and disparity that exist in these regions. And this is a school called SMPN 7 Budong-Budong. It's a middle school, and it's located in West Sulawesi. For everyone who's not familiar, it's officially categorized as one of the most underdeveloped region in Indonesia. And teachers, they cannot conduct learning activities whatsoever because parents cannot support their learning activities because the majority of them are farmers. And with farming, as you may know, it's not something where you can work from home. You need to be there in the field to work. And so even if they do have a device, they have to bring it with them, and their children are left at home. And so what the teachers did, and teachers, I tell you, they're the most amazing people. I think they're superheroes. What they did is to, let's say there's 20 students in 1 year, and they split them into, let's say, groups of 4, groups of 5. And they would put these students into houses that would accommodate to them, and the teachers would move from one house to another. so that they could teach in a safer manner. And so this is a photo that one of the teachers sent me. And you would think that they're not exhausted, right? I think a lot of us, especially in the beginning, who have older professors, we may have complaints, oh, my teachers don't know how to share their screen, or they don't know how to mute themselves, or so many complaints. But just as much as we are struggling, they were too. And I think this is something that we all recognize, which is we needed help. We needed so much help. For a lot of us, maybe we needed help for internet connection. We needed help to have a personal device so that we don't have to share and we can attend every single classes, do every single homework. And we needed free learning material that we can easily access so that we could learn, essentially. And that's what we're supposed to do as kids, as students. And we needed help so that we could jumpstart this society to become one that is prepared for digitalization. And maybe this is something that we've been needing for all these times, but the pandemic had to happen so that we're starting to finally get there. So our governments, of course, they recognize that it's not something that we're just hoping for. They see that as well. So they did try to provide support as much as possible. This is from my Instagram story. You may have seen this if you are part of my friends, followers. And these are when I shared my experience as a translator in a Japanese school. It's in Bahasa Indonesia, so I'll translate for you. The first photo on my right side, it said, translating day. One of the things that the teachers or the schools in Japan do is to provide every single student from primary all the way to high school with one iPad. Every single one of them. Right? So that's amazing in and of itself. And this iPad is used for initially online learning. Because even though Japan is one of the countries that started face-to-face learning really, really quickly, so the pandemic was announced in February, and I think in August 2020, they already continued with face-to-face learning. But they wanted to make sure that if something happens or if things change, students will be able to connect immediately with these iPads. And something that I thought was interesting is that, of course, the type of website that they could connect to is limited. So I tried to open youtube.com just to see, and you couldn't access it. And lastly, what I also thought was interesting is that they started providing smart whiteboard, is what I would call it. I'm not entirely sure about the official name, but this smart whiteboard is connected to the iPads in school. And so it's not only students trying to digitalize themselves, but also teachers. And what I really, really liked about this is that even though they didn't plan this ahead in the beginning, these iPads are starting to get used to teach coding and roboting skills to children. And so they're trying to prepare a human capital that's prepared for Industrial Revolution 4.0, 5.0, and so on. And then this is in Indonesia. In Indonesia, okay, so in Indonesia, this is announced in September 2021. We have what you would call daerah 3T, or the most underdeveloped regions. And I will translate as we go because this is in Bahasa Indonesia. But these are basically cars that the government sent to the most underdeveloped regions without internet connection, so that students can visit these cars, get the Wi-Fi, get connected, get the materials they need from the computers in these cars, so that students can continue learning. And this is an innovation that is still on trial, but hopefully they can legalize or officialize this sometime soon. So, just as an illustration. And what I also believe is good about these cars is that they also try to help accelerate vaccination in the most underdeveloped regions that is hard to be reached by medical practitioners. So these are examples of students visiting the car, and then these are iPads from the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, so they can easily access learning material. So you get the idea, right? So this is one of the innovations that the government is currently trying to do so that not only those of us living in urban areas can get connected online. So that's one country, two countries actually, Japan and Indonesia. And there's one more country that I'd like to show, which is where we are at right now. And this is what Turkey, the Turkish Ministry of Education, is trying to do. This has English subtitles, so you may be able to read it.
Virüsten etkilenen alanlardan bir tanesi de eğitim. Dünyada çoğu ülke koronavirüsün yayılmasını engellemek amacıyla okulları kapatma kararı aldı ve uzaktan eğitim sistemine geçti. Ancak bu durum beraberinde bazı sorunları da getirdi. Türkiye, pandemiden önce hayata geçirdiği EBA sistemini hızlı bir şekilde sürece adapte ederek eğitim alanındaki bu sorunların üstesinden gelmeyi başardı. Bu sayede EBA ile öğretmen ve öğrenciler internet üzerinden etkileşimli olarak gelişmiş bir altyapı sayesinde bir araya gelebildi. Eğitimde fırsat eşitliğine önem veren bir anlayışla hareket eden Türkiye, öğrencilerin eğitime ulaşabilmesi için öğrencilere ücretsiz internet erişimi sağladı. Milli Eğitim Bakanlığı tarafından sistemin devamlı olarak mercek altında tutulması ve içerik bakımından desteklenmesi de sürece ve projeye büyük katkı sağladı.
Çocuklarımızın eğitim öğretim hayatlarının aksamadan devam etmesi tek gayemizdir.
Right, so that is what the Turkish government is trying to do, and I'm sure that later on Fawad can tell you what Pakistan is doing, and I'm sure that while we're here we can all exchange ideas on what each of our governments are trying to do to support our education. Now, 15 million students. I've shown you three countries, Japan, Indonesia, and Turkey. Which among these three countries do you think have 15 million students so far per 2021, if I'm not mistaken? Raise your hand if you think Japan. No? Good choice. Raise your hand if you think Indonesia. Okay, I see some raise of hands. Raise your hands if you think it's Turkey. I see 1, 2, 3. A couple, okay, so a lot of you think it's probably Indonesia because Indonesia has hundreds of millions of population, but this is the amount of students in Turkey right now. And the number continues to increase with the number of foreign students coming into the country as well. But if you think about it, 15 million students is a crazy number because this is, if you put Denmark, Finland, and Norway's population together, then you'll have 50 million students. That's 3 countries, right? So that's how much the government is trying their best to support us in times that we didn't expect. Now, every student in Japan have an iPad, which they probably didn't plan ahead. And the Turkish government, they're trying to create a learning system that's free and accessible for over 15 million students. And Indonesia's government their education expenditure has increased by 5 times. So it's currently about $70 million times 5, which is a lot of number, so that we could keep up with digitalization. And that's a lot. And we should be grateful. Although there are so many things that we still need, it's a work in progress, right? But there's also something that I'd like for you to keep in mind. Digitalization is a double-edged sword. Just as much as digitalization can help us pave the way to the new future, the new and exciting and the much-needed future in a society where this event probably in 3 years' time is going to get hosted in the metaverse, for example. But at the same time, it can hurt us in return if we are not careful with creating preventive measures. If digitalization is increasing in a rapid speed, and if we don't create regulations to go with it, then we are the kids or students who are going to get hurt in return. And I'm going to provide some examples for this, right? This is a world if you don't work your hardest to digitalize education. Right now, 10 million additional girls are at risk of child marriage due to COVID-19, and this was reported by UNICEF. And I think this is still quite prevalent in a lot of countries, especially in Muslim-dominated countries, while child marriage is still quite normalized, unfortunately, and we are trying to fight against that. But the reality is this. I think sometime in 2020, the number of children who are married off because of the pandemic has rapidly increased, and this moves us back in our battle to eradicate this once and for all. Child marriage has more than doubled during the COVID-19 pandemic, with numbers set to increase. And this is warned. So this is unfortunate. At the same time, we need to understand the context. Child marriage happens in societies where, for example, we are economically vulnerable, and we cannot provide one more mouth to feed. So we have to marry our daughters off so that a different gentleman can support them economically. But more often than not, they are married off to a gentleman who are also just as young, just as economically vulnerable, just as mentally unstable, and so they end up in a lot of conflicts, and they are more prone to domestic violence, they're more prone to risks at early pregnancy, and childbirth among the ages of 15 to 19 are the most prevalent reasons for death among girls. So it is definitely necessary for us to make sure and try to create every measures possible so that everyone can continue to attend school so that they don't end up in these types of fate. However, it's a double-edged sword, right? So there's one plus or positive to digitalization, but we also need to take a look from the other side. And these are articles from Indonesia which I've translated. So the first one is, there's a surge of sexual violence during COVID-19 pandemic, and violence and pornography towards children increased during COVID-19 is an impact of mobility restrictions. Now, we're not sure, but this is occurring, and we need a solution. We need regulation. As I've said, just as much as we need to support improvement and development, we also need to emphasize on regulation so that these can still be within our hands. And the government acknowledges that as well. It says, beware of cybercrime toward children during the pandemic. This is a webinar that was hosted by the Ministry of Education in Indonesia, and they are very much aware of what's going on right now. You know, with digitalization, there are dangers that comes with it. They want to make sure that all children can be protected. And in this article, they mentioned a couple of things which I thought we need to highlight together. So, first of all, they said parents should collaborate. This is, of course, because education is not just teachers' responsibility. Education starts first and foremost from the house. But not everyone has this privilege where parents can help or support education for their children. It also says that sexual contents are blocked. Great, there's VPN. And we probably all know how to download it, and we probably learned how to download it from a very young age. And then Indonesian Broadcasting Committee can give recommendation. So they could decide whether, which appropriate or inappropriate contents can go on TV or on social media, but there's so many different ways that we could get around that as well. And this is what I mean and like what the previous speaker said in the first panel, we need beyond just ideas, right? We need actionable plans that we can start executing right now. And here's the thing. I have a solution that I want to propose. But before that, I also want to ask you guys a question. And this is related to what my solution later is going to be. And keep in mind, the issue is digitalization with negative impacts, and these impacts are more often than not threatening the misinformation to children in regards to sexual context. So I want you guys to keep that in mind as well. Now, I want to see some raise of hands as well. How many of you received sexuality education in school? I see some hands. And I can understand the confusion, right? Because what is sexuality education? What do you define as sexuality education? So I'm going to break it down for you. How many of you talked about puberty in biology class? Okay, puberty, for those of you who are not familiar, is when you talk about body changes, hormonal changes. Okay, now, how many of you talked about HIV/AIDS in PE, for example, or also in biology? I see more hands down than up, which is unfortunate, and hopefully we can fix this in the future. Now, how many of you, I'm going to change the question. How many of you just heard about this term today? Good touch and bad touch. Okay, how many of you did learn about this in school? No? Okay. I think I have two more. What about assertive communication? Did you learn about that? I see one hand. 2, 3, okay. I'm happy for all of you. And last one. How many of you learned about emergency hotline for contacts or authorities that you can contact, worst case scenario, if anything happens to you or to your closest people? No? Well, neither did I. So it's something that we need to work on. But these topics that I asked you earlier is a part of sexuality education. But the question is, which sexuality education, right? There are so many curriculum. There are curriculum from the US, curriculum from the UN, there are curriculum from Indonesia, Pakistan. Every countries are likely different. So for these curriculum, do you think, and I'm going to ask about Indonesia because that's where I'm from, do you think these are curriculum from the UN or from Indonesia? Can I see some raise of hands if you think it's from the UN? United Nations, so International Sexuality Education Guideline. Okay, how many of you think these are from the Indonesian Sexual Health Guideline? I see one gentleman over there, thank you very much. Well, the truth is, and this is related to the solution that I want to propose, which is a solution that we already have today. It's very much official. It's legalized in our law. It's mentioned to be compulsory, although it's hard to determine whether or not it's working well in practice because, as I have seen, many of us don't really receive these types of education to be able to protect ourselves and respect other people's rights. And so this is bits and pieces that I took from the reproductive health education module for primary students. So it's not for high school, it's not for middle school students, it's for primary students. These are topics that should have been taught since early on, but I'm guessing that that wouldn't apply to us because this was only legalized in 2017, where a lot of us are probably in middle school or high school or have graduated already. But just to give you a right idea on why I think sexuality education is a solution to protect us in terms of digitalization and the risks that comes with it, I want to ask you guys, how many of you are familiar with this hashtag? Do you remember the story of what happened in November in 2021? Can I see you guys say yes? Yeah. Okay, so for our other speakers and delegates who are not familiar, hashtag Save Novia Widyasari was trending for a week or even more. And this is the name of a girl who committed suicide after she was forced to get an abortion by her boyfriend, who coerced her to have sexual relationship or sexual intercourse without her consent. So she committed suicide, and it went on viral for a long time. And when we think about cases like this, when we think about tragedies that has happened, of course we can't simplify the issue and say sexuality education is the solution, because that's not the only thing. We also need law, we need regulations, and we see our government trying to head towards that direction. There are a lot of opinions about it, but there needs to be a collaborative action, and sexuality education is one of them. For example, and again, I would not want to simplify this, but this is an example of how things may have changed if sexuality education was taught properly in school. So this is about the victim, right? Novia Widyasari, the girlfriend of a police officer who committed suicide. If, for example, in school she had learned about assertive communication, saying, for example, the first point I'll translate into English, I'm not comfortable if I'm going to go home late, my mom will be worried. Or let's say she was taught to say, no, I don't want to go with you. If she was taught that she could say that and there's no consequences to saying that, then perhaps things could have been different, although we will never know that. And then secondly, if, for example, it did happen, she did get pregnant, or she was forced to have sexual intercourse with her partner, then perhaps she would know by learning about sexuality education that she could report to certain authorities, so the clinic. She could get treatment, she could get supervision for her mental illness or depression that might occur from what has happened. And so if she had learned about these things, then maybe things would have been different. And then, but it's not her fault, right? Or it's not, some things when these types of issues occur, it's the responsibilities of perhaps even a society. And there's also the perpetrator, the boyfriend, the police officer. Oops. Oh. Okay. Okay. So if the police officer knew that healthy relationship is, healthy relationship can be called as one if there are no physical coercion, or if there are mature behavior or attitude where they can have a relationship on the basis of empathy, respect, appreciation, and trust, then maybe he wouldn't have had that or did what he did in the first place. Or if he knew that every action has its consequences, then maybe he would have learned to think clearly or think from every single perspective. He would have thought about the advantages or the consequences to his actions, and therefore he wouldn't have done what he did. But again, it's not just her or him, but there's also the uncle, if you remember the story. So instead of comforting her, providing support for her, what the uncles did, plural, singular, I'm not sure, but what they did was instead putting her or condemning her for what they did. They were talking to her from a condescending perspective, and for someone like her whose father just recently passed away, she came to her family, her uncles, for comfort, and that's not what she got. And so if their or her uncles have learned that family is one of the biggest supporting system, then perhaps they would know to give support and care and make sure that Novia wouldn't have been harmed. And so these are examples of how sexuality education could help us or protect our future children or students. But the reality is that's not what we learn in school, and it might take a long time for us to be able to properly and comprehensively learn about culturally appropriate faith-based sexuality education. So this is what I tried to do. Some of you may know this account. It's called Knowing Better, or in Bahasa Indonesia, taulebih.id. And just like you see in the hashtag, now you know, the point is for you to know better. By following this account, hopefully you'll find some information that you were never able to comfortably talk about with your teachers, with your parents, with your family, and you can talk about it with us, with this account. And the reason why I decided to do this is because, as research has shown, especially in sensitive health topics like this, digital innovation or digital intervention is the best solution because it can provide private communication and can easily be adjusted to the user's needs. So these are some topics that we talk about. We talk about FGM, we talk about the penis in a very cute cartoon, we talk about myths about the wet dreams for those of you who may have questions but cannot ask about it to anybody. And we try to provide contents that everyone is interested as much as possible. Recently, we've been getting a lot of texts to talk about masturbation. And of course, that's something that we're gonna have to look at and think about and also understand why there's such interest in these types of topics. We also try to quiz our followers every now and then to kind of see and gauge how much they know. And we also try to create an open discussion with our followers so that they could ask about anything that they are uncomfortable with. For example, they want to talk about vaginal discharge. They want to share about their experience of teaching learning about sexuality education with their teachers. We're trying to provide an interactive platform for students or children or anybody, even parents who want to talk about sexuality education among themselves, with their parents, with their children. And within 3 months, we have received over 16,000 followers, and this is a number that I had not expected in the beginning, which shows that there is certainly an interest in these types of topics, and yet we have yet to provide a solution to that. But here's the thing, right? Social activism is not always working. Digital activism, at the end of the day, is voluntary. And if you look at this graph, this is from the Insights, which I got last week, you'll see that there are about 90% women following this account and only about 9 to 10% men. Which you can draw the kinds of conclusion that you want. Of course, this information is not enough to let us know why there is this types of pattern. My husband likes to tell me that guys are not on social media as much, which I agree. But what else? What is the reason? Because in order for us to create a community, a caring and safe society, it needs the collaboration of both population, both men and women. And right now we're not seeing as much participation from the other half, and I want to understand why. And for all of the gentlemen here, you might think, oh, so you're now attacking us. You're just saying that it's our fault, that we are the one who made you feel unsafe, and that's not what I'm saying. But no, never mind. So, I don't want to talk about this with you guys from women to men, because as a woman myself, if people tell me what to do on how to behave as a woman, and they are men, then it is less likely for me to listen because they don't know what it feels like. Right? To be a woman, they don't know what it feels like or the kind of experience or challenges or struggles that we faced. So I brought a gentleman to tell you or to talk to you, and before I play the video, I firsthand want to apologize for the crude language that is going to be used in this video, and I would like to say that I do not condone it, and I hope that you won't be following his example. But he gets the point right, and that's something that I want to share with you.
97% of rapists will not spend a single day in jail. That is a real statistic. That is fucking abhorrent. So how do we fix that? How does society, how do we fix it? How do we stop this happening? It's all I've been thinking about for the past year, over and over and over again. How do you fix this? How do you stop this? How do you prevent this from happening? I've got no answers, man. The only thing I can think of is it has to involve us. And by us, I mean men. Now, to the women in the room, I know you know this. None of this is new information to you. You've lived your life, you've got your experiences, and your voices are more important and necessary in this discussion than mine. That being said, I would still like to lend my voice to the discussion. And to the men in the room, I want to make something crystal clear. This isn't an attack. I'm not accusing you of anything. And more importantly, I'm not accusing your friends of anything. I'm just trying to tell you my experience, and this is my experience. I knew this man for 8 years, and he fucking did it. There are monsters amongst us and they look like us. If you are sick of the narrative that's currently going on about men, feel free to change it, but you have to get involved. Don't make the same mistake I did for years, which was just sitting back and be like, well, I'm not part of the problem, therefore I must be part of the solution, because that's just not how this fucking shit works. I believe, and deep down I know that most men are good, or of course we are, but when 1 in 10 men are shit and the other 9 do nothing, they might as well not fucking be there. Being good on the inside counts for absolutely fuck all. You have to actively be good and get involved. Instead of having this fucking hero complex of being like, I'm going to beat up a rapist, fucking prevent one, stop one, because I know it can be done, because I know how I fucking failed at it. Because if I'm being 100% honest with myself, were there signs in my friend's behaviour over the years towards women that I ignored? The answer is yes. And then he raped my friend, and that's on me until the day I die. Talk to your fucking boys, get involved.
Okay, so that's the video, and I hope that he was able to get the point across. But, so that's the thing, as we have seen in the video, there is a solution. Our government has provided a solution, and it's not just in Indonesia, in Pakistan as well, in some countries that I looked at, in Bangladesh, in Japan, in Malaysia. All of the governments are trying their best to make sexuality education compulsory so that children can learn from a very young age that they are precious, that they deserve to be respected, and they can teach or treat one another with respect. That exists. But at the same time, what exists is a society, most of them maybe our parents' age or even older, who are trying to prevent this from happening. Because they still believe it's shameful, they still believe it's taboo, they still believe that good girls, good boys don't talk about these topics, and then we see one tragedy happening after another. So what can we as Gen Z do? And I think that's what a lot of us are, right? I think for a long time there has been a misconception that we are millennials. We're not. We are Gen Z, I think, for a lot of us, including myself. And first of all, what we can do, if I can say for myself, for all the gentlemen, is of course, like he said, to get involved. Because if we're gonna host a webinar talking about feminism, or host a webinar talking about female rights, but all you invite as the speakers are all women with a female moderator, and you're not involving men in the conversation, what's gonna happen? We're gonna talk about it, we're gonna celebrate it, but are any tangible changes are gonna happen? We can't say for certain, because most of the people in charge are, as we can still see in countries like Indonesia and other Muslim-dominated countries, are men. So that's something that I want to say, to get involved. But it's not just one half of the population's problem, it's for everyone as well. So what I can say and what I want to say is that social activism work, like what happened with Novia, you have the superpower to use your voice, make things go viral, send one criminal and another to jail. Not only the boyfriend was finally discharged dishonorably, he was also sentenced to jail. And in another case that was also viral about a teacher from a boarding school in Indonesia, today it was announced that they are going to be sentenced to jail for the rest of his life. So it works, and I want all of us to give applause for ourselves right now. And so this is us, and this is our superpowers, basically. As Gen Z, we are adapt researchers, we're constantly curious, we are digital natives, we're interactive, tech-savvy, we are educated, we have the power to use our voice from behind screen and make the changes that we need, and you so far have proven that you could do that. And if I could quote from the song, from the theme song, it said that, you know, you got a voice, so go make it heard, because nothing is holding you back from what is meant for you. So social activism work, be curious, educate yourself, use any social media, TikTok, Instagram, Twitch, anything, and then make it louder. And so if I can leave you with last one thought, it is this: prevention is better than the cure. It is better to be safe than to be sorry. And right now, all of us, we have the power to make long-lasting changes through our voice, And this can be rapidly carried to millions of audience thanks to social media and our ability to use it right. We have the power to understand algorithm, to understand how to use hashtag, to make sure that we can ride the wave, and I want every one of us to constantly and keep doing that. And perhaps beyond just people who silently read what's going on, but also to like, also to share, to form your own opinion, and make your voices be heard. And as Gen Z, as I've said, we are born with the superpower. And if I can quote Aunt May, who just recently passed away from No Way Home, spoiler alert, she said, and as cliche as it may be, bear with me on this, okay? It was a really great movie. With great power comes great... Thank you for that. Okay, yes, so with great power comes great responsibility. So use your power while it is still in your hands. Don't let it slip. Attend online classes to be educated. Engage your precious people in conversations that may be uncomfortable but necessary. And hold that power tight and don't let it slip between your fingers, because the safety and protection of the future generation rests upon you. So I have done my part now for today, and I leave this up to you. So good luck, superpowers. Thank you.
Thank you. I have, like, it's the fourth session I am attending, and first as a moderator, but I have never seen the people so active. And I just want to say that you are like a superwoman.
Thank you.
So sensitive topic, so controversial topic. Me being from Pakistan, I really know this, where the government has tried a lot of things to deal with this issue, and what you are doing, it needs a lot of courage, and we all 100% support you, and I just want to say that you are doing a great job.
Thank you.
Carry on, and you should try to reach more Muslim majority countries, and you are always welcome in Pakistan.
Thank you.
So, in my country there is a hotline, and government is telling a lot about us. So if a woman is feeling any issue, you can just simply text or call, or we have Prime Minister Citizen Portal, where you can just tell, and police will come. And the good thing, if someone is getting their daughter married underage, police will come, arrest her father, the father of the groom, all three. And when they are released, if they will try to hurt the girl, then the police will come again, they will arrest them again. And the circle will continue as long as they will come back to their senses.
That's great.
So, it's, as a man, I will say that it's our responsibility, more than women, that we should also take care. Even in Quran, Allah has said that we have made men protectors over women. So when the God has said, He has given us this responsibility. So I personally believe that yes, it is our responsibility to be more, to work more. And let me introduce our next speaker. He is an engineer and he is from Pakistan. In the morning, an Indonesian, no worries. In the morning, an Indonesian guy was asking me that why there are so many engineers in Pakistan. And I was like thinking that no, there are not so many engineers in Pakistan. And now I met Fawad Bhai, who is also a mechanical engineer, and I am a chemical engineer. There are two Pakistanis and we both are engineers, so I think that he was right that Pakistan has so many engineers. Fawad Bhai is a founder of Scholarships Corner. It is a very good initiative on which you can find, it's a website, Instagram page, you can find scholarships and exchange programs, and Internships, you can apply, they describe everything very easily. He received the honor to represent Pakistan at many international platforms, most recently in Malaysia and Maldives. He was also selected as a U-grade semester exchange student in the United States, and I believe it is a very good achievement. And I want him to please come to the stage and share your opinions with us. Thank you. Please welcome in everyone.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are doing great. First of all, don't worry, my presentation won't be that long. It will be like 10 to 15 minutes, inshallah. And before starting, I would like to thank the committee of Istanbul Youth Summit that they give me opportunity and to bring such brilliant minds to act under one roof. And especially, I would mention the names of two persons, Korea, I hope I pronounced her name correctly, and the other one, Alwa, because I am connected with these two members like since January, and they like facilitated very well. Like I had some issue with the visa process, and they were like with me throughout the process. So thank you so much. And before starting, I know you guys are tired, so I will have your 5 minutes, and for that we will have some fun activity. Okay, I would request to all of you, please stand up. So it's a simple fun activity. What you guys have to do, so you guys have to go to the other participants, like as many as you can go in 5 minutes, and you have to introduce yourself, and you have to ask their name and country name. Okay, just it will be good for you guys. You guys will know each other, and I hope this will make you active. Yeah. So please start. Play the music. I think this is enough. Please sit down. Yeah, 5 minutes. Guys, can I have your attention, please? So, how are you feeling now? Are you active now? Yeah, that's good. So my topic is like I have to talk about the education in pandemic, about the impact of education crisis, and what was the impact of education and what is the impact of crisis on education. And I will also talk about my own initiative, Scholarships Corner, how Scholarship Corner is improving the life of community, the students and community. So the first topic is like, what is the condition of education in crisis? So there are two things I want to talk about that. The first one is like we have two like system, global south and global north. And what is global south and global north? And global south we have like the most elite countries, the most developed countries. And in global south we have like the poor country or developing country. And so now you are thinking what was the condition when pandemic came, like I will take example of COVID-19. So global north, if we can see, like if we take example of USA, when the pandemic came, they have already a well-developed system. They didn't have to worry about anything. Yeah, the school were closed, education was like, university were closed, people don't have to go to university, but they have already online system. I have been to USA, and I think many of you have been to USA and many developed countries. You have seen that they have like online examination systems and Blackboard, which is a very good system. And so they don't have to worry about anything because they have the infrastructure and everything. On the other hand, if you talk about the global south countries, the developing countries, if I talk about Pakistan, like this crisis, like pandemic was alarming for us. Why? Because we don't have that much good system in Pakistan. Because there are most regions, the region I belong, it's a border area with Afghanistan. We still don't have like full electricity. We have like 2 hours electricity in full day. There is no internet facilities. Like I will share the idea, and I will share how scholarship corner work in that time in our area. So what first point is there. The second point is up-to-date knowledge. In global south, they have up-to-date knowledge. They change their curriculum with the modern need of society. They do not like use the outdated knowledge. Like just in developing countries, I talked to someone and they still using the 90 or 2000, the curriculum they developed in 2000. So that's why the people in developing countries, they like faces a lot of problem during crisis. The third point is easy accessibility. When I went to USA, like I discovered like they have like almost every kind of facility. Like the most important thing, like if you talk about differently able people, if you talk about them, like they have facilities for them too, and they treat them very well, and they have like technology and everything for everyone. And like someone is like from rural area, he has access, he or she has access to technology, and he has like the internet. On the other hand, if you talk about the global south, the developing countries, I will take my example, my village. We don't have like the electricity, we don't have like internet. So that's why we are affected the most, the developing countries. And one most important thing, like many of you who are working in the industry or who are now graduating, who will know about this industry academia linkage. What is this? Like in USA, I have seen this, that they connect their students with the industries. Their students know what to read, what to research, and how to research. And they train their students according to the modern needs of the society. And like if you give my examples, when I was graduating, like I didn't know what will I do after, and I think he went for the same thing. I didn't know well, I do job, I will apply for another, like, for my master. So I didn't have any idea. So the next things, I was asked about that, what was the impact of crisis on education? Well, I just explained that the global south countries wasn't like affected that much because they have already developed system. But on the other hand, country like Pakistan and many other developing countries, they have affected the most. Like they didn't have that kind of technology, and the other thing is that the school were closed, like almost for 1 year. And what they did, that they promoted the students. There were no exams, so the quality of education were affected. So this, if you see the numbers, this I took this file from World Bank. So they like research and check the numbers that 24 million additional students may drop out of the school system. This is just because of the crisis. So this is how the crisis is affecting us now in the developing countries. And 370 million children in 150 countries missed out on school meals. 10 million more girls at risk of early marriage between. This is the most alarming. But this is true, this is happening. So, and the fourth one, $17 trillion loss in future earnings. They are not talking about the past earning or present earning, they are talking about the future earnings. And 100% increase in depression and anxiety. I think there was a presentation about mental health in the morning. So this is also very important, and I have seen this during pandemic. This problem has been increased, and it has affecting many people's lives. And the last thing, 9 million additional children at least being pushed into child labor. Yeah, I have seen this in Pakistan. And because of pandemic, most of the people lost jobs, and there were no one in the family, most of the people, and so they have to, like, if they have to support their families, they force their children to do a job. So this is the impact of crisis. Okay, importance of education in crisis. So I think you have heard that if you want to destroy a country, its culture, prosperity, just destroy the education system. I think you guys have heard that. So let me give you an example of Japan. She's living in Japan, and Japan is one of the most, and I think you can say the most developed country in the world. And you know that Japan has been like destroyed. I mean, USA bombed 2 atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. What they did, they didn't like made any nuclear weapon like other countries. What they did, they didn't give up. They just provide education to their country people and provide a better education to their country people. And now you can see they are the most developed country in the world. So my point is education is the key. If you have a better education system, your youth go through a better education system, your country will be developing. So now these points are related to this importance of education. Makes people healthier. If you take example of COVID-19, an educated person know that the vaccine is very important, and it can overcome the COVID-19 effect. So they got vaccinated, and with many people got vaccinated, it makes the society more healthier. The second point is income increases. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm working on my own initiative. If 2 people started the same business, one is educated and the other is uneducated, who will like earning more? Who will earning more? Educated. Why? Because he knows the methods, he knows the technology, he knows the tools. So this is why education is more important. When the earning increases, it reduces the poverty. And when that things happen, country economy will be growing. And when your economy growing, your country will be in a peaceful manner. There will be like jobs for everyone and there will be peace in society. Okay. Pandemic not an obstacle for youth in getting higher education. I think higher education, pandemic is not an obstacle. Why? Because I think now youth is technology friendly. Almost everyone know how to use technology, how to use internet, and I think they are allowed to play on the internet. So, and they know how to use the online platform for learning purpose. So, my first point. Second point, distance learning. Now there are a lot of organizations which are offering free online courses. In 2020, what we did, we shared free online courses instead of scholarship. Why we did that? Because more people were interested there, more people joined free online courses. And the last point is very important. Okay, so now we know that during pandemic, many people lost their jobs. So there were financial problems for many of us. But in Pakistan, what the youth did, they joined the online courses and they got extra skills and they started freelancing. And during pandemic, Pakistan was the third most country of youth who were doing freelancing during pandemic in the world. So this way they supported their family and they also supported their education. So I have a question for you guys. Is current technology sufficient for teaching and learning process in crisis recovery? Anyone? No? Anyone else? Okay, so I got no from you guys. Well, as I have been experienced, I think the current technology is sufficient. Yeah, you cannot compare. Yeah, I'm coming to that point. Yeah, you cannot compare like the physical education system with the online system. That's two different things. And the output is different. Like in the classroom, you can get engaged by the teacher, and it is more helpful. But you know that COVID-19 is not going away. It will be here for like 4 to 10 years. It's already been the third year. So I think we have the solution, and we can use like almost everyone had like mobile or iPad or ThinkPad, so they can use that for the technology. Yeah, there are some countries which need our support, which need the support of the world, like in communication network, internet connection, computers, and like many of us, like in some point I agree with you. Like at Pakistan, many people doesn't know, like the teacher even doesn't know how to use the online platform for teaching, because they have never used it. So even in cities, the teacher doesn't know, and they hate it. Seriously, they hate it. They want to school open. This is the first time they want to school really open. So, how many of you heard Scholarships Corner or visit Scholarships Corner website? Okay, let me share an interesting fact with you guys. On Instagram, we have like 209K followers, and 50% of the audience are from Indonesia. Yeah. In 2017, I left my job. This was my first year of job. I have graduated in 2015. For 2 years, I was unemployed, In 2017, I got my first job, but at the end of September, I ended with my job and I started working on Scholarships Corner. It was 27 September. Why did I start Scholarships Corner? In the last 2 years of like 2016 and 2017, I applied for like 8 to 10 scholarships. Shivning, Next, Fulbright, and the Global Korea Scholarship. There is KNB Scholarship for International Student in Indonesia, and Erasmus. But I got rejection in all our scholarships. So because I didn't have anyone that guide me for the scholarship or for the application process. So I talked to my friend and I discussed my idea with him that I want to initiate a platform where we can share opportunities, share information, and the information will be free, and we won't charge anyone. I started it, and we started sharing information about scholarships, internship, conferences, awards, summer school, summer program, exchange programs. And after sometimes what we edit the Scholarships Corner, we edit an online live session or webinars. From that time, after like in 2018, we started live webinars or session on Scholarships Corner Facebook page. And these webinars are totally free and anyone can join from any part of the world. Who were the speakers of these webinars? The speaker of these webinars were like alumni of the scholarship who were studying in different part of the world. After that, the third thing we did, we were lacking in the first two part was that we started connecting alumni with the students, because we got many queries how to like fill the application of Global Korea Scholarship, Fulbright, Max Scholarship, etc., etc. What we did, we connected alumni with the students, and the alumni were helping and they were guiding students in filling their forms. And most important, this was totally free and it's still free. We do not charge anything like other consultancy. Now we have like 300K followers on Facebook and 50,000 and more than 50,000 on LinkedIn, and we have like 160K on YouTube. Like you can visit YouTube channel, there are like application process videos where you can learn how to apply for different scholarship, and we are making new videos too. So I'm coming to your point now. You said technology is not sufficient. Yeah, you're right. I respect that. Check these two pictures. This was back in 2020 when the pandemic was at peak, and I was at village because I have to go to the village. There was no one in Islamabad. There was lockdowns. I have to go to the village. I spent almost 6 months in the village at that time. I don't have the internet at home, so I have to hike for 1.5 hours just to share opportunities. So that's what we did during pandemic. That's why like I respect that yeah, it's not sufficient, but we have to like do something. We have to make like play part in this. Like I have to go to the mountains daily for 1 hour. So next, what is the role of scholarship in improving quality of education? So I have a question from our respected speaker. What is the role? Because she is already studying on one of the best scholarship program in the world, Max Scholarship in Japan. So what is the role of?
Well, I think the main role is to, first of all, support your education financially. And by doing that, you are given so much more opportunities to explore the kind of things that you want to explore, such as organizations or works, because you don't have to worry about trying to fund for yourself. And you can focus on your studies, and there are also networking perks as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. The scholarship, let me share my experience. When I went to USA and back in 2013, I was there for 6 months. I was an exchange student. Like, it, it brings so many changes in my life. It like I always said that the 6 months I spent in US, that was more better than the 4 years I studied in university. So that's the first thing, like scholarship played in my life. Second thing, there, like why I'm always giving an example, because I have been there. I have studied in the US Institute. They have better system, better research system. When someone studied there and they came, for I have seen Pakistani students and even diplomats. They have been to USA. When they came, they started their own initiative. Some of them started working in the university, and some of them even I have seen in the government, and they are making policy now, a better policies. So that's the one thing. Second thing, encourage diversity. Let me give example of that. Why it's important? Because when I was going to the US, I have like stereotypes. Because I have always seen on TV that US is not good. Yeah, their government have different interest. Every government have different interest, but about the people, they were very friendly. They were very helpful, and because many people in my village told me, don't go, don't go. It's not good for you or for your family. Yeah, even some of my university teachers, they told me that. But when I came back, I started my initiative, and secondly, I'm also working for thalassemia patients. So they see this change, and now they ask me about the things I explained, and now my 2 or 3 people are in the states. They are getting higher education on scholarships. So that's the change come, and it's good for the community. When they came back to Pakistan, they will work for their community. And absence of financial burden. One more thing, many of us who do not like, who wants to study in the most developed countries, but they do not have financial like requirement, or they have faces financial problems. So this is one thing like they can apply for, and they can go to the different country, and they can study in the developed countries, and they can get back to their own country, and they can work for the community. Why I'm giving my example? Because after coming back from that culture exchange program, I started this work, and this work, this scholarships corner, like we have guided 25 students in 1 year for culture exchange program, and 23 of them were selected. And let me clear one confusion, because when I tell to the people about scholarships corner, they ask, is it only for Pakistani students? So it's not for Pakistan only. Then the information is for everyone. And we have one student from Georgia and Tunisia. She got the Erasmus scholarship, and our team guided that student. So we have student audience from different part of the world, and also we have students from different part of the world. One last question from you guys, and I hope you guys will answer this. What is the role of youth in improving education? Who can answer that? Anyone? Innovation, okay. Ali, you want to answer that?
Youth can play a role by studying and not spending time on YouTube and other social media. I knew when this pandemic started and classes go on offline, like online, my younger brother was the most happiest person because he don't have to go to school. But yeah, I am serious about it. Youth can cooperate with the government. If a crisis emerges, the only thing we can do is to support and cooperate. Started blaming or thinking that the government will do everything, it is not possible. As now we are above 18, we are mature enough to understand the situation. When this pandemic started, I was in my 7th semester and it got online. I was the student president. So creating awareness among other students, helping them to learn how to use the online apps, it is the thing that we can do. We can improve ourselves during any pandemic or any time, and we can help others. It is a thing I believe youth can do to improve education crisis in everywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I totally agree with Ali, because it's not the responsibility of government, and government cannot do it alone. We have to play our part. I will give you one example. Okay, I will give you one example why youth can play an important role. Who know Malala Yousafzai? Malala Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai is the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner. She got that prize at the age of 70. You know, she worked for girls' education when there were terrorists back in Pakistan and Swat. So she worked with BBC, and she started blogging, and she was telling to everyone education is important, and she was giving message to everyone. And she changed her name that time. She didn't disclose her name, but at the end of 1 year, after 1 year, she disclosed her name. She got shot back in 2012, but she survived. But she is the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner. So I think you guys can also play an important role. Just we need to be active, and we want to be part of this system. It's not working, but that's all from my side. If you guys have any question, you can ask it later.
Questions we will allow them to ask questions after the last.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for this amazing presentation. Fawad Bhai is from Fata region, is in the with Afghanistan border. So that region have faced some issues in past, and it's always very good to see people who have done so good in their life. And those who are sleeping, you can look at my pants, but just please wake up. I know it's a long day, but that's why I think engineering is important for Abai. Because when you have lectures from 8 to 5, it made capacity in you to stay active for all day. So our next speaker is Miss Asma Aziz. She has done her bachelor's from University of Birmingham, a very prestigious university in UK, in BA Political Economy. She has done her master's in management consulting from University of Leeds, and she is co-founder of a very good initiative, Digitech Asian. She is, for her leadership qualities, she is the president of the Association of Birmingham Asian, where she received Gold Award in 2019, and she is also the campus ambassador of HSBC Bank. I request you to please share your thoughts with us. Thank you. Please, thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Unlike other speakers, I will be sitting down because I was given the opportunity to speak today just 2 days ago, and I was doing the slides in the flight. So I have my script in front of me, so everyone can hear me okay? Before we begin the presentation, I would like to give a brief disclaimer that I am speaking here today as a part of an ASEAN citizen and on behalf of my social organization. I would like to first thank the organizers for inviting me to be one of the speaker lineups for today. I am truly, truly humbled to be surrounded by amazing panels and bright change agents in this room. So filling in the space for a privileged public figure, experienced one, Padino, is a privilege that I could not begin to imagine how to comprehend. I'm just a student, I'm still doing my master's. I graduated with BA Political Economy. But I will try my very best to present to this room regardless and hope that everyone can get 1 to 2 key learning takeaways today. When I first received a call on a Sunday morning to catch a flight yesterday, the question that I find myself asking was, what values can I add to the table in a public policy perspective? And in the midst of looking for answers, I came up with this quote: wake the policy maker in you. Without emphasizing the P in policymaker, I am essentially calling everyone in this room to acknowledge that you can play a role to create, to innovate, and to build effective public policies, despite not working directly with the government. In the words of this TED speaker, I don't remember her name, because public policy is about the public, and the public is about you. So now you may ask me, Azma, how can I be a policy maker when I'm just 18 years old, or you're probably in your early 20s? Is this not a government's key role to do? Well, technically, yes, but this is where I come in to introduce myself properly. Even the remote is already tired. I was a political economist and I studied European public policy. I also was studying women's studies, gender studies. I represented my country to speak about social issues and how within the national, regional, and international borders can come up with effective policies. Since I was 15 years old, so I was traveling around the world. I went to Madrid actually with Yusril here and Ali for ASEM. But I had a change in career to becoming a consultant where I now study business consulting and advise policy recommendations to private sectors and NGOs rather than direct political bodies. So during the COVID-19 crisis, I took the opportunity to collaborate with my Indonesian and Burmese friends to create an NGO and later turn it to a social enterprise to promote awareness of digital literacy to ASEAN citizens. I am 23 years of age, and contrary to popular belief, your early 20s is, I dare say, the best time for you to be policymakers. This is because we are groomed to be future leaders, right? Every one of you is told you are the future leader of tomorrow. And we face first-hand experience, global crisis, you name it, financial crisis, Omicron, Delta, whatever that is, climate change, and felt the severe impacts, high unemployment rate, mental health challenges. So without the voice of our generation, we risk in creating more complex challenges for the next generation, not only for us. But to create effective policy changes, educating oneself is very crucial and very important. So in the view of building a new paradigm for public trust, this slide aims to present a simplified version of how public policy has prevented public overreaction to crisis. Put it briefly, how have the policymakers created solutions out of problems for the public? In the public policy literature, there are several, okay, this is not a lecture by the way guys, please don't fall asleep. There are several approaches in public policy process. One of the easiest and most conventional way that the public sector or the government follows is this 5-stage process. The first stage is policy agenda, where policymakers recognize a problem that needs serious attention. The second stage looks into formulating policies by proposing several solutions for dealing with public challenges. The third stage brings the recommendations forward to authorities, key players, governments, NGOs, social enterprise, private sectors, for it to be accepted. The fourth stage implements these policy recommendations to the public. And the last stage is reviewing and monitoring these policy recommendations. So this is where authorities critically ask themselves, did this policy recommendation really work? Given that public policy making process is this linear, right, from policy agenda to formulation, adoption, implementation, evaluation, global challenges would have been resolved easily by the stakeholders. But let me give you several easy examples to understand better. If unemployment rate is high, why not just create more jobs? Easy, problem recognized, solution provided, policies can be implemented. Unfortunately though, post-COVID-19 era, there is an increase in unemployment cases from 4.5% globally to 6.5%. That is a huge number. So existing policies are now compounded and threatened by the health crisis. If technological disruption is changing labor markets and the dynamics of work, causing further mental health challenges in workplaces, why not stop creating robots? Why not stop creating virtual reality, for example? Or just put a hold on technological changes immediately? Again, very easy. Problem recognized, solutions identified, and policies can be implemented. But as many of you can probably tell, the recent crisis has caused major job loss and rapid digital acceleration quickly eradicate traditional jobs. And gig economy is on the rise, especially in Indonesia. Digitalization is another social contested policy issue on its own, very highly debated topic and interesting field in public policy. I urge everyone to look at it. But as an advocate of change makers and has this it's tired again. As an advocate of change makers and has this big ambition to make a difference in the world, I'd be so frustrated, for example, to see homeless individuals fighting in the cold. If only, right, if only there is such thing as power of absolute effective policies, do you think poverty would still be categorized as the worst form of violence? In fact, the key players, for example, United Nations or any governments really, have concluded that we are far from reaching the target to end poverty in all its forms in 2030. Due to the crisis, COVID-19, again, poverty has reached 9.5% from 8.4% globally. Again, this is very frightening number. If climate change is threatening, not only to the human life, but the aquatic as well, why are public policies not strong enough for us to still not practice recycling proactively, for example? Climate change has proven to worsen the situations of many livelihoods, and we are still so short to reach the target. When I was visiting Madrid and I was invited to the Finland embassy, they expressed how shocking it was for them to not have recycling bins in their office. Because they live their whole lives with successful policies in recycling education. Now, coming from a Southeast Asian background, I personally think our education lacks to produce effective mindset in sustainable living. Hence, is this part of public policy failure, you may ask? During the COVID-19 crisis, fake news was aggressively circulating. What are the policy measures in place already, you may be asking? From these examples alone, we can conclude that policy-making process is nowhere near linear. Nowhere near that policy to adoption to implementation is never linear. Which is why it is easy, it is easy to blame shift whenever policies fail. Yes, this is definitely the public's fault. Yes, this is definitely the government's fault. Very debatable. Some scholars would argue that public policies are simply hidden agendas by the government, for example. In the public policy literature, again, this whole experience is called the wicked problems. It mentions how public policies are inherently difficult to be manifested in reality. It also means once public policy is in place, an attempt to resolve one issue, another issue crops up. Few of the reasons why policies actually fail, subject to the definition of what fail is exactly due to this wicked problem in policy. For example, problems are constantly changing, so policies of today may not be suited for policies that are required for tomorrow. Secondly, policies are addressing symptoms instead of underlying causes. So for example, you are only solving issues at the tip of the iceberg rather than what's underneath that. Public policy, I'll give you one easy example. Public policy will address domestic violence, but the underlying cause is actually about child rights. Thirdly, policy agenda during problem recognition is poorly identified and scoped. As I did my work experience closely as a government consultant before, I can say from my part that the system in place for policies is trying its best. Governments are trying their best. For unemployment issues, for example, the government places cushion of benefits to reskill the citizens. I am aware that even saying this is a privilege to have as a citizen of my country, but when the public sector is expected to handle all the wicked problems in our society, crises will just continue to present themselves because we are just waiting for the government to say something. We are waiting for the government to say, yes, okay, we'll hear you out, we'll give you this public policy. But in reality, that's not how it works. We do not live in an ideal world, so we are told to step up. Youth plays a part to tackle these challenges. If public policies continuously are so precariously difficult to be impactful, we need to be the change. You need to be the change. So as a co-founder of a social organization, this is how we roll in public policy. During the COVID-19 crisis, we adapted to the challenges and built greater trust among the public. For example, the public sector implemented online learning for the education sector after identifying that physical class is impossible due to COVID-19. They successfully adopted these policies in all countries, and it seemed very perfect on the surface that everyone in the world is implementing it. In terms of policies, that's great. However, in the policy evaluation stages, they found several social issues starting to crop up. So for example, students not knowing how to operate digitally in the rural areas. As a social organization, we saw the opportunity to address this policy gap. As a co-founder of DigTech ASEAN, so this is what we do. We we envision to close the inequality gap between the hyper-digitized and underconnected communities in ASEAN. We are focusing in 3 countries, Brunei, Indonesia, and Myanmar, but mostly in Indonesia. Together as a team, we identified that the underlying problem is actually low digital literacy rate in rural areas in ASEAN region. We aim to target 5,000 youth in ASEAN by next year. To me, numbers don't really matter as long as the impacts are there. But to date, we have educated close to 1,000 youth directly in 3 different countries. And it's amazing because I have never met at all any of my co-founders. I've met them virtually. We met from a conference at the US Embassy. So it's great that we can roll in public policy through virtually as well. We adopt our own policies by proactively strengthening our mission and approaches in the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. Our leadership actually lies within this. So for example, for SDG number 5 in gender equality, we exemplify this through having an equal representation of gender, both internally and when we do our projects. Our board of directors, I am proud to say, are mostly female. Girl power. So of course, thank you. For SDG 8, we promote digital skills and knowledge by utilizing train the trainers approach. For SDG 10, for example, we encourage digital lifestyle, ethical digital lifestyle, where we educate underconnected individuals to challenge confirmation bias and help them know the differences in information. So before you share whatever it is online, you have to ask yourself, how accurate is this information? Should I press share? Should I like this post? Should I accept the news without looking into the credible sources? It's really important. It might sound very like a tiny bit of work, but actually the impact is really big. Because we are not a governmental body, but are still very passionate to influence positive change, one strategy in making policy response in time of crisis and overcoming several challenges is actually collaborating with established governmental and non-governmental bodies. Today, even though the organization is at a young age, I am proud that we are supported by the largest regional political identity in ASEAN, which is the ASEAN Foundation, headquartered in Indonesia as well. We make connections with established organizations from ASEAN to Europe to the US, because the public knows digitalization is important. Without the digital literacy rate, we risk to create more social issues. So policies actually start from us. We didn't wait for any governments to say something. So before I end my presentation, I would like to say that there are really no right answers to solving crisis. This is not, however, to say that all public policies will fail. But we have to acknowledge that public policies actually have expiry dates. It's just like your bread. If we do not act now, our global goals will widen and remain far-fetched. Public policies are there only to mitigate the potential effects of future crises, but it does not put an end to it. It sounds very frightening to say this, but this is why you are here today in the summit. You want to make a change, to take actions in policy responses. So one last thing, I will leave you with this. Dear future leaders, how will you roll in public policy? Thank you.
Are you awake? After meeting Asma again, I can only say that this world is a small place. 4 hours or 36 hours, we don't have our phone, and we were requesting our mother to please help us get our phones back. So it's on you how you can, like for me, really help me to end this habit, because I knew that now I am going to phone my use again, then father is going to snatch it again, then I have to beg my mother again. So just to avoid all this, so is anyone else want to ask a question? Yes, you can ask. You behind her. Yeah, I believe in gender equality. One male, one female.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much to the co-moderator, Mr. Ali Jafet, for giving me the opportunity for asking the question to all of the speakers. Okay, let's begin. I am Kurniawan Wicaksono, and I am the one of delegates from Istanbul Youth Summit 2022. And it is amazing today I can be stand here in front of all of you guys, especially in front of the speakers, honorable speakers. And thank you so much for the moderator also giving me to the asking a question. Okay, I am undergraduate student from Sultan Islamic University in Semarang, Central Java of Indonesia. And then my special major is Management of Human Resources. And also I am the leader of Education 9. That is a social project for increase the literacy in youth and Gen Z or millennial generation in Indonesia. And I would love the opportunity can we talk more with you, Miss Zafira, maybe and with the other time. And then I have the two questions for you. And the first is how the culture in Japan was to make books a friend and digital to adapt, and what lesson can we take from them to implementation in the Indonesia, especially in youth and especially in youth generation. We can say like millennial generation. And the second is why would Ms. Zafira bring up the Islamic value reproductive sex issue? So that's interesting because it doesn't stop much of our NGOs to make the stuff like that. And I'm so interested to hear your project because my campus is focused in Islamic value, also in leadership Islamic value. Thank you so much.
Thank you for Mr. Kurniawan, was it? Okay, to briefly answer the first question, how do Japan make reading or literature a friend for children starting from a very young age? The answer is you provide library in every single district or region or area. And so what happens in the primary school and in the kindergarten that I've worked in is that every break, the reading books becomes a kind of reward for students. If you do well, you're going to be able to read the books that you like, and putting that kind of mindset and instilling and internalizing that allows children to associate reading books with reward, and it is something good and it is something that they need or should want. And something else is that parents, instead of bringing their children or giving children their gadget if they need distractions, want their children to be distracted because they need to do something, what they would do is hand them books. So you would have lots of books at home, lots of books at school, and at the same time, when they want to go out, what parents do is take children to library. And every single public library in Japan is just like bookstores. It's like Gramedia, for example, where everything is stacked up so nicely. You have the newest collection, you have books in English, books in Japanese, and it's created in a way that's fun and attractive for children. I think that's something that we still lack in Indonesia, and I hope that is something that we can all work on together. For the second question, why did I want to implement Islamic values? The answer would be is that because I'm a Muslim, and I believe that as a Muslim, my identity requires me to obey not only government law, but also my religion, because that is what I subscribe to. And yes, there are already a lot of movements that talk about reproductive health or sexuality education, but most of these come from a Western-dominated perspective that don't really resonate with any of us, I would guess, because a lot of this comes from a human rights-based perspective, but we all have different ideas of what human rights actually is. What's written in the Universal Basic Rights of Human Rights are written by a group of white men and maybe one Asian and one black person, but it doesn't represent us. So what I'm trying to do is to create something that represents every single one of us and create something that's long-lasting for future Muslim generations. So I hope we can talk more about that later. Thank you.
He's also tired. You don't need to tell me, I know I'm a good moderator. Anyone else want to ask a question? If you will ask short questions, then we can have more people. If you will ask 2 or 3 questions, then we will, you know that I will have to close it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, sure.
Okay, first of all, thank to the moderator for the opportunity, and I would like to thank first to all the speakers for
the insightful presentation. My question is for Mrs. Zafira, or I will call to you Kak Zaf. I will ask Kak Zaf, as you said, I'm sorry. Okay, my name is Ani Fitriani. I come from Gajah Mada University, Indonesia, and I'm from Public Health number 3. Okay, my question to Kak Zafira is, as you said in the presentation earlier, that not all parent-student in Indonesia can accompany student during online learning. And this phenomenon can lead the lack of parental assistance will certainly affect the understanding of student to learn to the lesson in the school, and also can lead the lack of parental assistance also will lead the excessive of use the use of children gadget, which can lead to excessive use of cell phones for games or even accessing sexual content. On the other hand, we know that kindergarten and also elementary students right now who are currently have online learning, they are the future leaders in 2045. As we know that Indonesia have a dream, Indonesia Emas 2045. I want to ask to you, Kak Zaf, how is effective online learning implemented in Indonesia? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would also like to hear from Fawad and also Kazma about this. But how do you implement an effective online learning? Well, I think in the presentation I've mentioned several criterias. I think if you can get children to focus by providing their own gadget or having strong internet connection, having teachers who are super interactive, and having parents who can constantly monitor, that's the ideal, right? But we don't live that in that ideal situation, and a lot of children, they are visual learners, kinesthetic learners, audio-visual learners. So there's no, I think, right answer in terms of how you can conduct effective online learning. But I do think that what you can do is, first of all, obey health protocols so that we could just send everyone back to school, because then it's easier for you to get in touch with students, because beyond knowledge, what they need is interaction. They need socialization, and that is what school is supposed to be for. So yeah, I don't think there is a solid one right answer for this, and I would like to pass the mic to both of you to hear what you think.
Thank you. So thank you for the question. So I personally think there is no right answer to this as well, because of online learning only started to become a trend during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's still work in progress. Everyone in the public policy perspective, all governments are still looking for answers, as well as how to create effective online learning. It is definitely teacher, student, and in between there is a bridge. The key players, the governments play a role, NGOs play a role. So as a co-founder for TikTok ASEAN, what we did was, Zaf mentioned as well just now, effective social interaction. So we actually reached out to rural communities and look out for the students and ask them, what is it that you need? Because it's one thing to say, yes, the underprivileged communities require access to internet. It's easy for us to say that, but when I actually went out, travel from town to rural area, they mentioned that effective online learning actually comes from having the resources, not only strong internet connection, but they want their parents to understand that they're doing online learning. I did online learning as well when I did my final year of degree, and it was very difficult. Everyone in the house was fighting for internet data, everyone was fighting for who's going to do the household responsibilities. It's a lot of aspects that we need to uncover. So again, it's a work in progress. It's still something new to all societies, and I feel like we are getting there. That's why there is such thing as hybrid working, hybrid workplace, remote working is starting to become a trend as well. Yeah, there is really no one right answer to it. It's a complex situation and requires a lot of solutions and sub-solutions within it. Yeah, that's my answer.
Thank you. Please pass the mic to the lady. Yeah, good. Yeah, she's very excited to ask a question.
Thank you so much for letting me speak. Well, I don't have any question right now, but I want to elaborate the experience and journey that I have started from Scholarship Corner website, which is Fawad CEO. So back to 2 years ago, I met with Fawad from the Instagram, and he has guided me throughout all the process of scholarships and the short courses. And I have done many short courses and learned the different skills. And now, Alhamdulillah, I am the CEO of my own software house and company from the Fawad. And as you have mentioned that small word, so I met him again here, and it was the coincidence that I met him, and he has invited me here. I was already invited as a VIP guest to Imit event here, and I'm from Pakistan and I'm a software engineer. Thank you.
Can MCs come to the floor? So, I'm thankful to you all and thankful to our speakers. My job as a moderator is done. I know you will miss me, but thank you.
Thank you very much to our wonderful moderator and our wonderful guests, right? Give applause, guys! Okay, so now, before approaching the end of this agenda, we will have a souvenirs handover, which will be continued by photo session. To our honorable speakers on this delightful session, we welcome you to come to the stage. And we invite the project officer of Istanbul Youth Summit, Ms. Raisha Azahra, to hand over the souvenirs. Photo session, our wonderful guest with moderator. That's the camera.
Okay, and let's count it again. From 3, 2, 1.
And once again, let's give applause for our wonderful guests.
very much to our wonderful speakers and also our wonderful moderator. You may leave the stage.
It's a long time. In this night. Hi guys, how are you today? How are you today?
Okay, dear ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful and insightful panel session we have tonight. And thank you to all the speakers and the honorable moderator for our panel session today. Thank you to all of the delegates and honorable speakers for making today's event so memorable. We are hoping that these events will be beneficial to us.
And after this, the next agenda is we will have a souvenirs handover, which will be continued by photo session to Mayor of Üsküdar.
To the Honorable, the Mayor of Üsküdar, we welcome him to the stage.
And to Mr. Alvisi Bakti for the stage.
Sevgili gençler, hepiniz hoş geldiniz.
Dear delegates, welcome.
Sizleri dünyanın en güzel şehri İstanbul'da, İstanbul'un en güzel ilçesi Üsküdar'da görüyor olmaktan, ağırlıyor olmaktan büyük bir mutluluk duyduğumu ifade etmek istiyorum. Tekrar Üsküdar'a, İstanbul'a, Türkiye'ye hoş geldiniz diyorum.
Üsküdar municipality, we welcome you to the most beautiful city in the world, in Istanbul, and the most beautiful city in Istanbul is Üsküdar. So we welcome you again.
Bu güzel organizasyon için başta siz sevgili gençlere teşekkür ediyorum. Bizim İstanbul'daki Yeni Dünya Vakfımıza teşekkür ediyorum. Yurt dışı Türkler topluluğuna teşekkür ediyorum. Konsoloslarımıza, büyükelçilerimize, hepinizin huzurlarınızda çok şükranlarımı sunuyorum.
And thank you for the organizing committee for organizing this event, and also as the mayor, thanks to all stakeholders who helped the program to be held in Üsküdar.
Sevgili gençler, sizler başta İstanbul, Türkiye olmak üzere değişik ülkelerden bu zirve için geldiniz. Hayatınızın belki de hiç unutamayacağınız en güzel, en önemli günlerinden birini yaşıyorsunuz. İnşallah bu zirve, bu çalışma, bu çalıştay hayatınızda olumlu manada çok güzel izler bırakır diye düşünüyorum.
You come from different backgrounds and countries and come to this summit, come to this program, and we hope that you will get the advantage as well, so you will get more to be back to your country.
Sizler özelde hepiniz annelerinizin, babalarınızın biricik evlatlarısınız. Ama sizler aynı zamanda bu medeniyetin, bu toplumun, bu ümmetin en değerli varlıklarısınız. Ailelerinin en değerli hazinesi, en göz bebeği yavruları, ama ümmetin ümidi bu gençler.
As the youth, we are the hope of the society, so we have to take the advantage as good as possible.
Sizlerden başta ülkeniz Endonezya olmak üzere bütün bir Müslüman dünyası çok ümitli ve çok şey bekliyorlar.
And you are from Indonesia as the most population of Muslim in the world. We always wait you here.
Endonezya sevgili gençler dünyada ve sizin bulunduğunuz kıtada en çok Müslümanın yaşadığı büyük bir ülke, güçlü bir ülke. Aynen Türkiye gibi sömürgeciliğe, emperyalizme, işgale karşı sermayenin, sömürgeci zihniyetin karşısında dimdik duran bir milletin gençlerisiniz. Sizleri ve Endonezya'yı kutluyorum.
And we are from Indonesia, as one of the most Muslim population country in the world, as well as Turkey, and we also have the same history for the colonialism, and we fought for the colonialism, and we have the same history, so we are the same between Indonesia and Turkey.
Sizler tabii ki sabahtan bu saate kadar burada epeyce uzunca bir toplantı yaptınız. Biraz yorulduğunuzun farkındayım. O yüzden yüksek sesle konuşuyorum.
We have gathered here from early morning, so then maybe you are tired, then I or the mayor of the Üsküdar speaks at this time loudly to wake up our spirit here.
Sizin için çok önemli günler, aynı zamanda çok şanslı olduğunuz günler. Bulunduğunuz ülkedeki, bulunduğunuz memleketinizdeki kaç tane genç bu imkanı, bu şansı yakalamış. Dolayısıyla bu yönüyle baktığımızda inanılmaz bir şansınız, bir imkanınız ve hayatınızda unutamayacağınız bir imkan elde ettiniz. İnşallah bunu en iyi şekilde değerlendirirsiniz.
Okay, as you get the advantage to come here to join the event or to participate to the program, so we hope that you will take the advantage as good as possible.
Daha önce bilmiyorum İstanbul'a, Üsküdar'a içinizde gelenler var mı? İstanbul dışındakileri kastediyorum ama şu anda bulunduğumuz yer Üsküdar, dünyanın da en güzel ilçelerinden, tarihi derinliği, kültürel zenginliği itibariyle çok özel bir mekanda bulunuyorsunuz sevgili gençler.
As the mayor, we do know that you have ever come to Üsküdar or not, but he's very sure that you come to Üsküdar, one of the most beautiful city in the world, with many historical places and also with many historical treasures.
Sizleri bugün ve yarın misafir ediyor olmaktan büyük bir mutluluk duyduğumuzu tekrar ifade etmek isterim. Yarın da inşallah yine bu programın sonunda bizim belediyemize ait bir gemi ile sizlere dünyanın en muhteşem su yolu olan Boğaz'da güzel bir boğaz turu yaptırarak bu güzel çalışmayı sona erdirmiş olacağız. Şimdiden hayırlı olsun.
So we are from the Üsküdar. We welcome you again for this program, and also we will see you again tomorrow at the Bosporus tour with the ferry boat from the Üsküdar, and we will see the beautiful of Istanbul at the Bosporus Strait with the big ship.
Bizim bir sloganımız var. İyi ki Üsküdar var diyoruz. Ama şimdi bu akşam diyoruz ki iyi ki Endonezya var.
As the Üsküdar municipality has the slogan that said "Iyiki Uskudar Far," that we are happy to be in Uskudar, but this evening we can say we are happy to be in Indonesia.
Sevgili gençler, sizi çok seviyoruz. Allah yolunuzu ve bahtınızı açık etsin. İyi akşamlar diliyorum.
The delegates, we are very welcome you, and good evening, everyone.
Nice to meet you. See you evening. Evet, thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's the time to hand over the souvenir from Istanbul Youth Summit 2022 to the Mayor of Üsküdar. Ladies and gentlemen, what a big pleasure for us to have another welcoming speech directly from the Mayor of Üsküdar to the Honorable Mr. Hilmi Turkmen.
So now we will take selfie, okay? So
Ladies and gentlemen, please have a proper position for taking a photo with the Mayor of Üsküdar.
So say hi or cheers. Okay. Okay, so I will count this. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Çok güzel. Thank you. Okay, so now please sit in your chair again. To all the delegates.
To the whole honorable guests and speakers, thank you very much for your coming. And to the whole delegates of Istanbul Youth Summit 2022, we would like to inform you that after this agenda directly, please get ready and get on the bus because we are going to go to the hotel again. And then after that, you may have your prayer over there.
Maghrib and dinner. So prepare yourself to the bus. Right? Ladies and gentlemen, this is our wonderful agenda. So we are master of ceremony. We apologize if we have any mistakes. So I'm Anida,
And I'm Nada.
Thank you very much and see you next time. Görüşürüz.